Welcome back to another episode of Emotional Nightmares. I am your host. My name is Tyler, and on today's episode, we are going to do another crossover platform with you guys today. So today we have the host of Love Anarchy. So she's on here with us. So she's going to give us some of her background on relationships. So that's kind of what we're going to do on here, which I know we as drug addicts and alcoholics were some toxic ass people, so we definitely need some advice on relationships. So before we get started on here, what I will do is I'll ask you, so what originally drew you to become a psychologist and love expert?
Gosh, I had no idea. When I was a kid, I wanted to be Olympic ice skater or a fashion designer. So I was always into art. So as I went on, I was in school for visual arts and graphic design. I started researching what am I going to do with it because I'm like, I don't want to sit in a studio all by myself all the time and only socialize, while I'm having shows. So that was my motivation. And I really like the idea of sharing art. So I researched a lot about art therapy and using therapy in that way. And then I ended up I was an art director for a publishing company after my undergraduate. And then
Nice.
I moved back to Rochester, New York, and hung out for a while. And either I was going to move to New York and become a painter, or I was going to go back to grad school and get my degree in art therapy. And that's kind of where it began. Um, yeah, and then through that, gosh, now it's been 30 years I've been practicing. So a multitude of things, but adding on, my first job in Rochester was at an inner city school, and I had some clients who had alcoholic and drug addict parents. And there it was like inner city. There were when I'd walk in, there'd be people on the porch yelling to me and smoking crack on the porch. I'm like, hey. So in the very poor section of town. So I didn't know how to talk about substance use. I knew a lot about mental health. I knew about creativity and things like that, but things kept coming up that I didn't know how to explore. So after I graduated and moved to Colorado, my first job was in a detox starting an adolescent program using art
Interesting.
therapy and family therapy. So yep, jumped right in and I got certified. They sent me to take classes. And I think, like I said, when you were on my podcast, I think before dual diagnosis of co-occurring disorders, I think I was one of the first counselors because they'd say, oh, if they have mental health issues, send them to a mental health counselor. I'm like, but I am a mental health counselor.
Right.
So yeah, so it evolved. Eventually, it became a thing, and we had training on it and things like that. But I guess I felt like I've always been cutting edge, and adding the spiritual component, religious, spiritual, whatever, about even not just in substance abuse, like in AA, but utilizing people's beliefs because sometimes this work is really difficult and having some guidance and not just people around you who often let you down or don't understand you. It's having that higher place or higher self to go to has always been helpful. And I guess I thought that was the norm, but you know, studying yoga and bringing in a lot of Eastern philosophy in too has helped. So now I use yoga, mindfulness, somatic work, utilizing yoga. I do a lot of internal family systems for trauma. So obviously a lot of trauma, and with substance abusers, trauma is almost always there. I haven't experienced much without it.
Yeah,
So
goes hand in
really
hand.
dove into that. So I'm in private practice, and then I do couples work, and I do coaching international, helping people with relationships. because we're getting so isolated. And I'm a true believer that substance use, abuse, and addiction often comes from that deep-seated loneliness.
Amen to that. Well, so you've been doing this for a long time, right? So how has your understanding, and for lack of better terms, we're going to group it all together. So how does your understanding of love evolve over the last 30 years of your career?
That's a really interesting question. Nobody's asked that. I think probably about 20 years ago. I'm going to go metaphysical on you. I was like, had a deck of purpose cards. And I said, okay, what's my purpose? And I pulled a card and it says, you are here to learn what love really is and teach other people how to love. So I believe in our culture, we attach ourselves to that special relationship. That's the only kind of love there is. But it starts with self love, which people are like, okay, what aisle do I buy that on? And we're not taught that growing up. We're taught to take
No.
care of everybody else but ourselves. And often we're lacking love as children. So that is very difficult, but so important for people to value and love themselves. And then there is just loving acts. And I believe love is an action. Like my podcast, Love
I agree with that.
Anarchy. Yeah, Love Anarchy. I'm teaching people how to unlearn what they've been taught about what love is. Because that's really it's what do I get out of the relationship? The selfish, the ego, it's taking that all out and then bringing the spiritual into it.
So what was the pivotal moment, right, that kind of helped shape your philosophy on relationships? Because everybody kind of has their own thing.
I don't think there was. I think it was just my spiritual path that started when I was in grad school
Okay.
and learning
That's
about
fair.
Eastern thought. And I think it's been an evolution. There wasn't just one moment, but I would say grad school was the time that spirituality was just starting to come in to, the realm spiritual. I was helping the director of the program write spiritual art therapy. So it was always mind and body. But then this spiritual component I got introduced to, and I was very into Jung. So I'm a post Jungian um, follower and, love that work. And I love the spiritual idea in it. So that started my path. And then I've just gone down so many other paths like shamatha meditation, doing the somatic work. I taught yoga for 20 years, breath work, and so many
Yeah, I
different.
think the yoga work is the most, like I said on your show, like I think that was the most, it was probably the best time I had where like I actually deep rooted actually felt something, you know what I mean? It kind of unlocked a lot of things when you get into that. So today, right? So in today's world, this beautiful world that we live in of chaos, right? You see a lot of people struggling today in relationships. So, in your experience with this, where do you think a lot of that struggle comes from?
Again, isolation. And we think connection is here.
Mm,
It's not here. It's like, and so we get a pseudo connection and we get some dopamine but we used to have to go out to get oxytocin and dopamine. And now we get just little bits. And then we're really not motivated to go out there and put ourselves at risks of being hurt. And I think we get soft now. And then
I
we get
like that.
angry, like with online dating. We get angry because it's like we're meeting a bunch of people who don't fit my list. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, you're dating another human being. Maybe you can have a tad bit of empathy. I think the empathy's gone. I think the ego's crept up. I think it's like, here's my list. And we have this idea that we have all these options because there's
Mm.
all these people on there. But with all these options, we don't choose. I think that's a lot to do with dating and pairing up nowadays.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think too, like from what I've seen is it's not instant gratification, right? Because you can swipe left or right, or it's, oh well, I got 10 people that want to meet with me, and it gets so chaotic that you don't take the time to slow down for a minute and actually get to know somebody on a deeper connection. You know what I mean?
It's
As
hard to when you're talking to 25 people. It's like,
yeah,
oh, you don't have the three kids. You have two girls. Sorry. Yeah. And I'm like, you have to like. The joke was one of my friends said I have to keep a whiteboard. It's a okay. I'm like, and it's true. It's like, but how can you really get to know somebody? It is just superficial, and then we have to judge by superficial things.
yeah,
And then we meet, and then where's the je ne sais quoi? That feeling of connection. That connection, and sometimes that's mistaken by our traumatic childhood too. We're we're attracted to people that make us feel the same way we did in childhood, and we repeat patterns there too.
yeah, yeah. I agree with that. I think even like myself, like I tried that once, them dating apps. It was a disaster, right? And it was because I ended up talking to like all these different people, because then you're like, well, I don't know who's who. I stopped doing that. I was like, I'm not gonna do this. This is insane. And then on a person to person encounter, I ran into my fiance. Like we bumped into each other and started talking. Next thing you know, here we are. We're getting married here in September. And
Congratulations.
it was because like we stopped that dumb shit of the dating apps, you know. So we actually got to know each other on a different kind of level, I think. So I
I
think that
call
kind
it
of
the
gets,
slow burn. Nobody does that. I call
yeah.
dating nowadays drive-by dating. Whoop. Yep. And
Sure
it's
feels like it.
like, and it gets people so drained and confused, but then you're addicted because you're not feeling any real connection with anybody. So well, I'll find more, you
Yeah.
know, I'll keep swiping, and then that's people just get caught up in the swiping.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And I think like from my point of view, I think it was, I would meet somebody, and then I would talk to him for like a week or two, and then it would be like, I'm bored. This isn't really the person. Oh, what's this person doing? And it was just constantly like just talking to new people and finding new people, and then eventually it was just like, this is crazy. Like I'm not doing this,
It
you know.
either goes that way, and then I have a lot of male clients and friends who don't get any response at all.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't have money. They're not, like, they're not the top 10 good looking, or they're not smooth. They're a little shy. It's like they're like, what's the point? And there's so many men, especially in their 20s, who are so alone and lonely because it's like the 10% of men, and then there's a plethora of men online and very few women.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely a crazy ratio. What So in your what does conscious love really mean in practical terms?
Well, it starts first with, actually, listeners, if you wanted, my last podcast last week was about self awareness. And
Mm.
basically, that's where it starts because most of the conflict comes out of our unhealed parts, our dysregulation, and it appears that it's your partner. So a lot of people go the opposite way and don't talk at all. They avoid conflict, and then their relationship implodes. So it's really about knowing yourself, being honest about your strengths and your weaknesses, and being authentic. Because if we wear a mask when we're first meeting someone, it's not going to stay on forever. It can't. And then people say, "Oh my gosh, you changed." Well, no, I finally let down the mask and I stopped people pleasing. And now this is who I really am. And a lot of people feel duped. And this is done not consciously because we want to be liked. But I tell people, I'm like, if you go out there without your mask on, let it down. I'm not saying trauma bond or trauma dump on
Yeah.
people, but just be real. And if people don't like you, then they're not a match for you.
What a concept. you know? Uh, no, I always tell people that. I always talk to people about like, do these people actually love you or do they love the mask that you're showing them? You got to be more of yourself because you're right. Like the mask, you can only carry a show for so long before the real you comes out. And if it's funny because like is way off the topic here, not oh well.
Okay.
So so it's funny because like when I met my fiance, right? It's like so I used to do as you know because I told you on your show, I did a podcast before this podcast, right, with a friend of mine, and it was funny because like we were talking about I wanted to get rid of these masks, and when I meet somebody, I want them to, because I don't believe in red flags, right? I believe in what are you willing to put up with. It's all a matter of perception. So for me, I kept saying, this is crazy. Like, I want to meet somebody who's going to come and then show me all their shit and say, here's my baggage. And then I can say, well, here's my baggage. And then we both can say, are you willing to deal with this? Am I willing to deal with this? Are we willing to kind of grow in this situation? And I kept saying, like, this just doesn't exist anymore. And then I met my fiance who did just that. She was like, here's my baggage, and like we kind of started off in a sense, like we started off real rocky, right? Because we started off with like all the bullshit first.
I
And like,
think I think that's wonderful.
yeah, like it kind of worked for us because like it started off with all this bullshit and we were like, I'm willing to deal with this, you're willing to deal with this. And then we've been able to grow with each other over the years to the point now where it's just like, all right, let's just get married and finish the rest of this life out. We'll ride it out, see what happens. So my cat's trying to get that door up.
Your cat knows. I it,
Uh,
I agree. It's like, and if you're honest and you say your boundaries right away and what you like and you don't like, there's bound to be conflict. But but then you can learn about each other and you know how to do it rather than waiting for no conflict for 10 years and all of a sudden your relationship implodes, you go to therapy and it's too late. It's like, oh boy, you have to get that open communication and realness out there to see if it really has wheels. It's just it's just the way that is. But you say, do people even know what their baggage is?
hmm.
People spend so much time pushing down their feelings and their emotion or emotional reaction they live up in their head. So do they even know what their baggage is to share it with the new person? It comes out sideways. It always comes out in relationships, but destructively, not openly and not being able to come to repair. Because being able to repair is the number one thing that's going to bring your relationship closer and minimize the conflict.
I think you got to get that. You kind of got to go through that baggage in a sense in the beginning. I think because how do I know? So for me, right? So like I always look at it like, how do I know what my boundaries are? I have an idea of what I want, but how do I know if they're real, right? Because sometimes we put unrealistic boundaries on some shit and then get mad at other people for not following them. Where when we were able to cipher through some of this baggage together, we were able to be like, oh, that's a stupid ass boundary. Like, now I see it from your point of view. You know what? That's not even real. And then it was able to say, like, wait a minute, this is real though. This is what I'm establishing as a boundary. So like I think that's what allowed us to grow together. And I think a lot of times, even for myself, reflecting back on past relationships and stuff, I think we get lost in the here and the now of, you know, everything's got to be a certain way, and like this is the way a relationship should work, and like that communication process gets lost because then it becomes a matter of like read my mind, and like our perception's fucked half the half the time,
Well,
you
and
know?
it's very subconscious.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
behavior is very subconscious, and that's all ego. If I think my way or my vision of a relationship is the right one, that is so pompous. That is so ridiculous. Why do you want to do that? That isn't the way relationships are. And it's just like, and that's where like that compromise or that non-compromise comes in, and it becomes a war.
So what do you identify as a toxic relationship? We talk about this a lot, but nobody identifies it.
Okay. As a toxic relationship, obviously opposite of conscious relationship, but it is not being self-aware, not being able to self-regulate. Oftentimes, if somebody's has narcissistic tendencies or is a drug or alcoholic, they can't really be empathetic and in a relationship. And like I said, lack of communication skills, and definitely lack of empathy if it's like it's all about you, whether it be narcissistic or just how you think things are. And it's very unself-aware people hang on to these beliefs so tight that they believe that's who they are. And like you said, we have to have a little wiggle room and a little gray to work through things. And are you able to agree to disagree with not hold it against your partner? No mind reading, over communication, I always say, because it's like um, mind reading comes from that point where I'm right and you should be doing it that way, or you should know me well enough that you know what I want.
Yeah.
That's toxic.
Yeah, I think so. It's funny because like everybody talks about a toxic relationship, but like it's so subjective, right? Because it's like my idea of toxic versus everybody else's idea versus like your idea, my idea. Like we have multiple ideas of it. So I think like you kind of hit the nail on the head, so to say. Like you really have to be honest with yourself, and like you have to know you. Like I always tell people, like you have to do the shadow work. Because once you know you and you love yourself, then you can carry on and have a healthy relationship. Because you're not going to know how to have a healthy relationship. And for a lot of people, it feels very uncomfortable to be in a healthy relationship, you know? Because we're so used to just toxic bullshit of you're yelling at me and screaming at me and like all this shit. Um, being being in a healthy relationship just feels, oh my god, what is this, something's wrong, type it.
Yeah, our nervous system gets used to what we felt as a child. So it's not necessarily exactly the same thing, but it's how we feel. And
Yeah.
I just read a study about that people who grew up in chaotic childhood always have to be figuring stuff out, trying to read the room, read the meta messages, read below everything in order to stay safe. And without that challenge in a relationship, people get bored. They're like, well, what do I do? Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing to, they're honest. They tell me everything, so I don't have to worry about stuff or stalk them on social media. They're so used to being hyper vigilant and trying to find something out that they feel more comfortable with somebody who is emotionally unavailable or dishonest.
I agree with that. I think even like for myself, like I've been in situations like that where the both of us were like that because we were toxic, you know what I mean? And then it was without that, it becomes exhausting. But then, like, without that, you know, and actually like taking time for myself and like getting to know myself for like as many years as I did before I got into another relationship, I felt that so exhausting that by the time I got in another relationship, because I was in one right before my fiance, where I was like, this is too much. Like, I'm cool. Like, this is just, I'm not doing this exhausting bullshit again. And like now it's pretty healthy for the most part, because we don't have those patterns, you know.
And it
So
takes in some patterns you have to figure out in a relationship. Like people come in and say, I want to be totally healthy, been clean for 10 years, I've worked on my trauma, I want to be perfect. Guess what? There's still things that are going to come up in your relationship. And that's
yeah,
what self-awareness comes in. But it's still going to come up. There's still, I kind of like having somebody holding your ankles over a balcony, shaking your change out. I said, you got to get
yeah,
your change shaked out.
that's funny. So one of the things we see a lot of is where couples become emotionally distant, right? They just start drifting away. They become emotionally distant. They still love each other and still want to be with each other. So, like, how in your experience do you help that person rebuild that connection?
It's called intimacy. And that's something that you need to start. And that's what we talked about is like sharing day to day things. The Gottmans say too, bids for attention,
Hmm.
like not being so independent like when women are these days. It's like, hey, can you help me with this? Or can we do this together? The more bids for attention, the better the relationship. And then they feel active in each other's lives. We're so darn independent that we can go off. And it's vulnerable to have to ask for help. And it's vulnerable to share when you're feeling down or low. But these are the things that brings you together and creates intimacy in your relationship.
Being vulnerable is a big word over here.
People don't like to do it,
No, no, nobody does because it feels uncomfortable,
but the vulnerability is the number one thing. And letting your partner really see you and to share maybe things with your partner that you don't share with anybody. And that's where the trust develops too. It's like you can get caught up in having kids or your careers, but you always need to put your partner number one, or after kids, or two at least. The relationship, it's like the hierarchy.
I guess, can you explain the connection between the body awareness and the emotional healing?
Ooh, somatic work that between the ages of like 0 and 5, before our frontal lobe develops, we experience trauma in our body. And trauma often that's pushed down and not processed is stored in the body. It can cause disease, it can cause illnesses, it can cause immune problems. So it's really learned, and this is even more fear provoking, is having to feel your emotions in your body. People don't even know how. They're like feeling, well, I'm taking a drink, I'm having a cigarette, I'm pushing them down. There's so many ways to do it. And that's often the case in addictions too, avoiding that. Because as kids, sometimes it was never safe.
Right.
So it's slowly being mindful, playing with the sensations in your body. This is the parts work that I do in internal family systems too. It's finding these parts that have gotten pushed down, those painful moments, those painful characters are who are carrying this, but they also don't go away. They're still there. And that's what I always say, they come out sideways.
I
And it's that overreaction when you're in a relationship And then you blame your partner for making you feel a certain way.
So you got the mindful love approach, right? So how is this approach different from like the traditional therapy?
Well, it's being in tune with our bodies and especially our heart energy and learning how to allow that. A lot of people walk around with a closed heart for protection, but you can't really connect there. So it's like doing the sound bowls. We talked about this, right? Sound
Yeah,
bowls together, doing these more meditating together, doing some tantric practices. And tantric isn't just about sex. It's about real connection, eye gazing, touch, and it's like in finding out what your partner really needs and making a concerted effort to do those things, like love languages. How does your
love it.
partner, yeah, how's
Love
your,
love languages. That's one
right?
of my favorite topics.
Yes. I like my boyfriend and I have been I can't figure it out, but he fixes stuff around my house and he's like, ta-da. I'm like, it's not my love language. I'm like, great, thank you. That's going to help so much, but it's not like I'm quality time and touch. So I'm like, yeah, good job. Then he's like, you don't appreciate the things I'm doing, and I'm like, well, that's how you give love, huh? So we had to become more aware of it. It's a thing. People laugh at it. Oh, it's so simple, but it's really not.
Did it with I teach like a love language class.
Nice.
I do it with it's funny because I did it with like all my clients when I worked at an inpatient rehab facility. So when I'm sitting there with like a bunch of like some of the hardened criminals and stuff, and like where I'm making them do love language, and they're like, "What the hell? This is some bullshit. I don't want to do this." I'm like, "Just entertain me for the day." And then we'll do it, and then by the end of it they're asking 50 million questions, and they're like, this shit makes sense now. I understand where, because it really is, there's really a good science behind it. Like it really does make logical sense if you really dive deep into it. Like you actually got to like, I know the book is like a fantastic book, and like I know some of the, I can't remember who wrote the book to save my life, but he wrote like a bunch of other stuff to go with it, like little workbooks and stuff like that that I utilize in group therapies. And like a lot of the guys and stuff that I work with, like, they really start understanding. And then it'd be interesting now that they understand it to be able to go back and see if they've implemented anything. But I only get a short period of time with them before they're off to another part of their journey. Um, that would be interesting, though. So
Yeah,
if you're listening and you ever had to do that group with me, I want to
there
know.
really, I think but it is powerful, and it's such a great place to start with people, hardened criminals, and because it's a simple concept and you can feel it. You can say, well, that wouldn't feel like love, but and two, I teach my clients that you give love one way, and sometimes you receive love or feel love a different way too. So it's not always you feel loved if somebody does what you do. So it's a dance with that.
Yeah, yeah, it sure is. You know what's interesting, like on a side note, is anybody who is ever locked up for a long period of time, every single person I noticed, and damn near everybody in the room, um, their their quality time is where they scored the highest.
That makes
It does, and like there's some more to that too, which I don't know. I haven't really dove deep into that rabbit hole, but it's something in there. But yeah, no, I'm a big believer in the love language. So, what does it mean to be your own partner first? I know you've kind of said a few things about that, but I kind of like that about like some of the stuff that you say. So, like, how? Why is that important? Like, what does that mean?
First of all, when you're alone, are you lonely or alone? Are
Mm,
you with yourself or are you just painfully lonely? And I think a
yeah.
lot of people don't know how to be alone. It reminds me of when I was a teenager, I was FOMO'd out all the time, but it's just like it's enjoying yourself. But also being alone allows you to listen.
Mm,
So whether it be meditation or journaling, being quiet with yourself, because truly you have all the answers within. And this can be a spiritual practice as well, is like
hmm.
tightening up your connection with your higher power, God, Allah, Buddha, whomever. Um, and that's important too. It's like being led that way, not feeling like you are alone, because if you have a spiritual practice, you'll never feel alone. But even without that, it's like, huh, what do I like? Taking yourself on, going out, not waiting for a partner before your life begins. Because I think so many people are waiting to be happy with their partner. But the truth is, you have to be happy with your life and the things that you've created in your life first. Nobody can ever make you whole or happy.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing in the world is to like just go to dinner by myself and then like just be by myself. No noise, no distraction, just alone. I think that it's a gift when you can feel that comfortability. I always tell people like that should be the goal is to work to be able to do that, to feel comfortable with doing that. Um, I see a lot of people struggle in that area a lot because they don't. You say that to some people and they're like, go to dinner by myself. Oh my God, no, I couldn't do that.
You need constant distraction. It's like the people who are doers all the time because they sit with themselves. Oh my gosh, I might be able to feel some feelings in my body, or I may be thinking something that I don't want to think. I
Yeah.
want to be entertained all the time, or I want to be distracted all the time. And then it's really uncomfortable when you have to sit alone and quiet. And I don't mean playing video games or, it's like sitting with yourself. What do I need right now? What do I want right now? And
Yeah.
really going deep in that entails feeling your feelings too, because feelings are navigational tools for what's working, what's not working for you.
So, what are some daily practices that people can use to rebuild some of their self-love?
I often, to starters, Insight Timer is a meditation. There's a free version. You can do a paid version and do classes, but there's different length visualizations, meditations, and breath work on there just to start and kind of feel what works for you. But breath work is one of the simplest way to regulate your nervous system. It's so simple. And you can go online and find out about box breathing. And back in the day when I was in grad school and I was bartending, drunk people would often get me upset. So I'd get worked up. So I'd just do 10 inhalations and exhalations to kind of just ground myself out because I worked for tips, right? I couldn't have an attitude or whatever. Um, Started there. Yoga, definitely, because that actually brings in pranayama, which is breath work and connection with your body. Yeah, and strengthening from the inside out. It's that's amazing practice. Meditation. Um, just sitting on a mat. People make it too complicated. Sitting
Yeah,
on
they do.
just observing what you're feeling and what your mind does. Because the monkey mind does all kinds of crazy stuff. But when you step back from it and just watch it, you can figure out how it messes you up. You can see how it works, and then you can do things differently. Journaling all the way. And of course, I'm an art therapist, so creativity. is such an amazing thing to do. Whatever it is, mowing the lawn with certain stripes on it, podcasting, and I'm like, there's a plethora of things. Having a hobby that takes your mind off all the struggles and that you can kind of get lost in.
I think art is very important. Um, Not like I can't draw to save my life but like I think of cooking like art. I think that cooking has done more for me mentally than anything because like I've been able to like there's nothing more exciting than being able to walk open the pantry and be like, okay, I got nothing. Let me make something. And like when you turn it into something that shouldn't be, that to me is like art, you know. I should write it down because my fiance
I
will
know,
say
and
to
I'm
me
like,
all
oh my
the
gosh,
time.
you've been poor like me at one time. I had
Yeah,
to be
yeah, yeah,
poor.
yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, how can I make gravy out of mustard and ketchup and some of these? Like I've done it too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm ghetto poor. Like I'm project poor. We being broke is never nothing new. So like
Yeah, I'm like,
you learn how
and
to
then
cook when you're broke. You know, my
when I
grandmother.
put myself through college too, I was like, okay, I'm like, I want something good, but I don't have any money to cook it.
Yeah,
But it causes you to be creative. Yeah.
it does. That was the one thing I always learned from my grandmother. She'd be like, well, you know, we used to make ketchup soup, right? So like, cause you can turn that into like a tomato soup, and like ketchup packets back in the day were free at McDonald's. You could walk in and grab a handful of them. So you could turn that into like a whole soup. And like, so like learning from her how to make something phenomenal out of like very little, like to me, that was always very important. You know what I mean? And like it does a lot for you mentally, I think.
It's it's a skill to have versus just calling or n- n- ordering from DoorDash. Like it's a
Yeah.
survival skill to have.
Yeah, I mean, I love DoorDash now though. We're not so broke anymore. We can order DoorDash.
Woohoo! You're yes,
Yeah,
moving
yeah,
on
yeah,
up.
yeah. I'm ordering all kinds of shit. Um, because you got your own podcast, right? So, like, what inspired you to start your podcast the most? Like, what was your main inspiration to, like, you know what? I got this.
Okay, this is interesting because I won't say the name of the podcast, but I was online dating and I met this guy who had this podcast. And actually, so coming up to now, he just asked me to be on it, but I don't think he remembers us corresponding at all. And I'm like, oh, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be on it or not. But I listened to it. And in it, him and his neighbor talk about dating, but they do the same thing, make the same mistakes over and over and over again, but then tell people how to do it right. And they're like, we should be therapists. And then I was like, ugh, no. No, 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 no. And then in the podcast, I got to see like all the stuff he was doing and not being honest with me about, not that we had any commitment, but like he blew me off because he went to see this other girl. And I'm like, well, there we go. But then they were talking about what they should do, but they keep doing the same things over and over again. And then they said they're going to be therapists. I'm like, oh my God, I need to do a podcast. So that inspired me. So I'm going on my 5th year in July, but I realized I enjoyed so much, especially during like 2021 when we're still kind of locked down. I got to talk with tribe members, different people all over the world to share their view on what they thought love was and how they apply it. And realizing I have so many people who think similarly to me, it felt so good and it felt very empowering to have those conversations from very different backgrounds and different perspectives. I've learned so much. And yeah, it's been amazing.
What was the one? What was the one that deeply impacted you?
Again, I think it's been a series of them.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with that.
just I made a really good friendship with an astrologer who lives in LA, David Hauser. So if you go to my podcast, he does astrology forecasts. But we've had such major conversations, and we've become really great friends. And he's been someone who's really been there for me, and I hope he feels the same way about me. But the friendships that I developed. So he was actually my first podcast guest.
That it's funny the people you meet through like the podcast and stuff, and like how relationships, how they tend to build and like do all that stuff on here. I think some of my most I've had a few meaningful ones. One of them particularly, I ended up not airing the episode per request of him directly, but it was very impactful. And then it's interesting the friends you make. Like I made a friend on here. I had him come on the show this season, or the fourth season. I guess this is going to be on the fifth season, but on the fourth season of my show, he wrote the book An Odyssey of Oddities, right? And his name's Jeremy, and he's become like one of my good friends out of just being a complete stranger. We met, we did the podcast, and then we started doing some TikTok lives together, and then now we talk like daily. Like in fact, he's gonna fly up here. I'm gonna have him come over to the wedding in September. So I mean, it's crazy, right? Because like the people you grow up with, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I know with doing a podcast, some of the people I grew up with, I don't even talk to anymore, and like they don't support. You would think they would be the biggest supporters since we've known each other for life, but it's like the strangers, the people you barely know, become some of your best supporters. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, with podcasting though, and I go deep. I have a Pisces moon, I'm a Cancer rising, and then Gemini sun, so I'm a thinker. So
I'm an
podcasting,
Aries.
wonderful, but I always, I'm like this. I'm just deep. This is how I move in the world. I think differently than people. I go deeper than people. It makes some people uncomfortable, but it's kind of, I actually invited friends that kind of were in my yoga community and in my friendship groups, and have them sit down with me, and I really got to know them. And that was so exciting. So it's people I kind of knew, but I got to hear their stories, and I got to hear what made them tick and their experience with love and what they've learned. And it's like, I that brought me so much closer to people that I knew.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing because I know my first three seasons, that's what I did because I did them in person. So I just grabbed like the people in my local community that I knew to come on. And now these last two seasons I've been doing like this, where it's more like connecting to people outside of the community because, the Pittsburgh area, we're only so big. So, you know, we got to reach other people. And like it's been interesting. It's fun having a podcast, ain't it? It's
My
interesting.
gosh, I got so much more out of it than I ever thought I would. And besides education, connection, and that's probably why I started it, because I'm like, we're just energy. So if I were to connect with people, and then I wanted my listeners to feel connected too. So we weren't feeling so all alone during the pandemic, and it just keeps going. And that one of my like, learn about love, teach other people about love, but to encourage connection among people.
I'm into that. So, what is something you want our listeners to take away from you?
That they should really examine what their behavior is in their relationships, and really spend time to look at what's working and not working, not just what you've been told to do.
I
Now,
like that.
oftentimes people are like, I'm getting married, I'm going to have 2.5 kids. I'm like, is that what you really, your heart wants? take some time and get quiet and lead the life not that people tell you to lead or that you're scared into. Lead the life that you love. And then you're going to attract other people to you who love the same things.
It's crazy how people do that, right? Like I'm over here dying laughing, and like me and my fiance we don't want kids. We're not gonna have them, right? Like like I'm 41 years old. I'm not about to have a kid now. I think that would be selfish, and I also think it would be selfish. It would be selfish because if I'm being truly honest, like I enjoy having free time and I enjoy having like a bank account and like 3 o'clock in the morning rolls around, we wake up and decide we're hungry and want to go get something to eat. We don't need to dress a toddler or do all this goofy shit.
Your life is taken over. I'll tell you. I
Yeah.
had one. She's graduated from college now, but I'm like, what happened during that time? I'm like, I couldn't call in sick. It's true.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it's funny though, because like everybody says that to us. Everybody will constantly be like, when are you having kids? And my fiance has no interest in kids whatsoever. She doesn't even like to hold kids, talk to kids. She'll talk to my niece and her niece, and that's about it. But like, she has no interest. And it's just funny how like society puts that on you of like, well, you need to be doing this now. And we're like, no, we don't. We're not doing that at all, man. We're good. We're good. It's
Embrace your own kind of weird. We
yeah,
need our
yeah,
unique, authentic selves here. Embrace it. People don't like it. They don't like it. They don't have to live it. You do.
yeah, absolutely. Where can my listeners find you?
They can find me. My podcast is on Facebook, so Love Anarchy Podcast. You can also listen on my website. It's andreaatherton.com. You can find me, Andrea Atherton 17 on Facebook, Andrea Atherton on Instagram.
Put those links in the show notes.
Excellent.
Uh, I appreciate you for coming on and being a guest.
I appreciate our exchange. It's been a lot of fun talking with you.
Absolutely. This is double. This is the
Uh,
not. It's not often I get somebody to talk with somebody twice.
that's cool. I know. And I've really enjoyed getting to know you. It's
Yeah,
been such a
absolutely.
pleasure.
So, as always, for those that are listening, you have spent 52 minutes with me, and I greatly appreciate you for listening for those 52 minutes. So, hopefully, you heard something here that can help you. If you did not listen, if you did not hear anything to help you today, there are more episodes on the channel, but if my channel's not it, who cares? Go find somebody else. At the end of the day, I need you to get help. You don't need to suffer in silence anymore. There is help out there. If it's not from me, go by all means find somebody else. If by some chance you are listening and you are struggling with addiction today and you need help, please message us. I have all the resources. I don't care where you're at, any 50 states. If you're overseas, I'm sorry, I don't have connections overseas, only here within the states. So, any 50 of these states, if you need help, we will get you help. If you need to go into a rehab area and you are in the greater Pittsburgh area, please contact me. I have connections within the whole state of Pennsylvania that can get you into a rehab. So if you want to go into a rehab, we'll get you. If you need to go to a rehab in another facility in a different state, we'll still get you those resources. We know some people that know some people. If you need a recovery house, anything like that, by all means, we got you. So don't hesitate to message. And tune in next week, and hopefully you'll hear something then. If not, then hey, it was good meeting you. Thank you for your time.